Hello all, my name is Twan Paes and I'm a Master Action Learning Coach from the YL Netherlands. And I'm looking forward to collaborate with you and to learn from each other at the Action Learning Week in September. And my contribution to this Action Learning Week is that I want to give a workshop. I want to tell you something about one of the important 6 elements of action learning, that is working as a group, working as a team. And I think it's very important that you have a good group or a good team. Everybody who's familiar with action learning is knowing that. And I think it's more important because I think the world is going to be more and more complicated and more difficult, that we have to do more in teams. And in a team, you know more than one person. And after 40 years of coaching, I was looking back to all the years I coached in the Netherlands and then the other places in the world. And then I was taking a look and talking with people and say, what makes that one team is a high performing team and the other team isn't a high performing teams, or isn't a performing teams, or more at a group. And I think there are some things, and I want to share with you. And the first I want to share with you is that you can look to an organization and to a team at 2 levels. And the first level I call the upperstream. And what do I mean with the upperstream? With the upperstream, I mean everything you can see. Be ensured that the existing order is running. And I think when you only have to work or look in the upperstream, then you can manage that. And I think if it's 100% upstream, you don't need action learning. Why you don't need action learning at that moment? Because we only have to do with one thing, that is, we have to do with puzzles. And when you are in the upstream, you can manage it. So you know where you are, you know where you want to go to, and you know how you can come to there. That's upstream. But then, more and more, we see that our problems and our challenges are in the undercurrent. And the undercurrent isn't visible. You can see it, you can manage it. And I think that is what you have to lead. So there you need leadership. And why is the undercurrent so important? Because we have to take people to new times and new methods. And then if you have problems in the undercurrent, you don't know really how we're going to solve this problem, how we're going to reach your goals, how we come there, then action learning will be great. Because you can look at the team together, what is a problem, what is a challenge. And I think the action learning coach is the connector between this. When you are, as an action learning coach or a team coach, can connect the upstream and the undercurrent, can connect management and leadership, then you have the basic for success. And then I come to another important thing. And that's, I think we are maybe at the end of business administration. And what I mean with the business administration, I mean a process when you do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then step 5. And when you have follow up all these steps, then you reach your goals. I think when the world wasn't VUCA, the VUCA world, you know, that it worked. When you are certain that you have the things to do, then it's work. But it doesn't work anymore. And when I think it doesn't work anymore, and I go to look to team development, then I go to look to a very famous model and a very useful model, and that's the model from Bruce Tuckman. And Tuckman said you have 5 stages in a team. The first stage is forming, then you have storming, then you have norming, then you have performing, and after that you also have adjourning from the whole team or from some individuals. And I think this is a very, very good model, a very clear model, but I think it isn't enough, because it is not when you are on step 3, then you go to step 4. Maybe when you go from step 3 to step 4, you fall back to step 1. So I think it's more interesting that we have to go to look in a loop, in a rectangle. And when we go to look in a rectangle, then is it okay? We work on all the levels. So my contribution to you is the team performance loop. And in the team performance loop, I'm going to talk with you with two things. The first is the way of thinking in a loop. So not at a business administration way of thinking, and 6 components who are the important components to make a team, a high-performing team, and also look at every component to the upstream and the undercurrent. And then I brought it together in this loop. And this loop, when I look to an action learning team, I look to a high-performing team, I think this is necessary. And then it's also important that you go to look, what is a team? Is it an action learning team who's coming together once, twice, or 3 times, or coming together every month, or every 3 or 4 weeks? Or maybe it's a team who's coming together every day. And it depends on how much the team is working together, how long the team is working together, how deep you go in all these things. And then when I go to look to the 6 levels, the 6 elements, then I think the first element is, what is the purpose of the team? What is the goal of the team? But also, what's the purpose of the goal of the individuals in the team? I'm talking some later about this. The second is, what is the connection in the team? What is the connection between the people? The third is psychological safety. I think the most of you heard a lot about it. It's an interesting element in team development when we work with wild action learning, but psychological safety is one of the very important things. Then number 4, how we give feedback. How is the feedback in the team? And level 5, or number 5, is, are we really asked questions in the team? And last but not least is how it is with reflection. And I think when you are working on this, you're working on your purpose, you're working on your connections, you're working on your psychological safety, that's maybe the time that you have to go back to look at the purpose. And not by psychological safety, that you can go immediately to feedback and then go to ask questions, then to go to reflection. And I think this is the infinite process of you going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, back to 1 to 5, back to 2. It's very different. And if you can look at this way to a team, then you're going to make you more prepared team in the VUCA world, in uncertainty, in complexity, etc. But then the first thing is the purpose. What is it in your team when you don't have a purpose, or if you don't have the purpose together? Then you are not a high-performing team, then you have chaos. And when you are a coach, and it depends on how long you're going to work with the group together and how often they work together, is what is the purpose of every person? Is that the same? And is it not the same, that it will be not a problem. The most important is that we're going to talk to each other, that everybody knows what's the purpose of this person, what's the purpose of that person. When I'm looking to a soccer team, some people say, okay, I want to make goals and want to leave the team in 2 years. And the other said, no, I never want to leave the team. I want to stay for the rest of my soccer life. Okay, so how can we have a purpose together? Okay, when we win games and going to be the champion of a country, that's be good for all of us. So that's the same purpose. But the purpose is not only an upstream purpose. The upstream purpose, how many goals that we reach, how many money we earn, how many clients we have, how big is the part of the world where we have clients. It's more like this. What do we really want to do? And I think when you want to go in the undercurrent, you go in the undercurrent with the individual persons, and you go in the undercurrent for the whole team, that starts with, I think, the why. Simon Sinek is very famous in the last 10 years, became for one thing, and he said, it all starts with why. So are you able that you know in the team, what's the purpose of all the individuals, and what is the purpose we have together? And if you don't have that, then you have a problem. Maybe it's that the problem you have to solve before you can go further. And then if you know what that all is, then you can work on connection. Then you can ask the question, what is the connection between the people in the group between the people in the team. And sometimes are upperstream things. We all want to have a salary to live our life. But there are also undercurrent connections. I like you because you're a friend of mine, or because we have the same things like music we want to listen to, or we want to make a better world for something. And when you don't have a real connection, you have not a high-performing team, you have artificial connection. And how can you work on that? That is also to ask questions, to bring the team together. And I think when you're working as an action learning coach in the action learning process, to ask everybody, what do you want to learn? What do you want to reach? What is the problem you want to solve? What do you think the problem is? What do you have learned in this session? What do you want to learn the next session? Then you are already busy with working on connection together. So that's the second element that's very important. And then the third element is safety. And with safety, I talk about especially psychological safety. If there is no safety, you have a fear culture. People are afraid to make failures. People are afraid to take risks. And also in the safety, you have an upperstream and undercurrent. The upperstream are the rules. The rules you've written down on a paper is the law, that's the upperstream. But there is also an undercurrent safety. How do I really feel? When I say something, and somebody says, thank you for your feedback, is this what he really means? Make this really safe. And then maybe when you are working on psychological safety, you coming to the conclusion that the purpose is too high. The purpose is so high that some people don't feel safe. And you have a very interesting question in the group. What do I want to go to do? Going to make the purpose lower? I'm going to give the people more safety, they make more failures to do that. And some people, it's in their character, it's in their biological, in their background, that they can expect more unsafety than the other. And I think that's very interesting. How are you going to work with this group? So you have to do with a person. How does the person feel? And you have to do with the purpose and the connection in the group. How are they working? And when you have a fear culture, you're never going to be a performing or high-performing team. And then I go to the fourth. And the fourth is feedback. How is the team giving feedback to each other? And the feedback, it's together thing. When you don't give feedback, then you have a comfort zone. So I say to you, okay, you can do what you want, but I never give you feedback. I never give you, I tell you what your failures are. I tell you what's disturbed the process. Then it's a comfort zone, so we can do what we want, but don't come further. And then you don't have a performing team. And you have just a group who is working together and everything, it's okay. And most of the time, people who don't give feedback to each other when there are some problems or when there are some things are not good, I call that'll be the happy losers. So when you give feedback, you do it in the upperstream because you have made decisions together, you have made conclusions, you have made reports, but also in the undercurrent. What is the really feedback? How is somebody looking? How is his behavior is? What are they doing beside the action learning sessions, beside when the team is together? Last year, when we were more and more digital as a follow-up of COVID, I saw that more people use WhatsApp to give feedback to each other, but nobody was seeing what's the one using WhatsApp to the other. So the undercurrent is much bigger. So how can we give the good feedback? And then it's very interesting when we come at that point, and we see, maybe we see this as level 4, there have to be a purpose. If you don't have the purpose, why you have to give feedback on? If there's no connection, why should I give you feedback? And if I don't feel safe, what's the problems I have when I give feedback? And then I come to level 5. And the level 5 of the element 5 is ask questions. If people don't ask questions to each other, if a team don't ask questions to each other, we as action learning people, we know this very well. you have no innovation. So you need innovation in the upper stream to look, what can we do better? What are we doing well? What are we doing better? 2 questions. No, asking learning sessions, we ask that. What's that? But also, how do you feel? And then not how do you feel as on the way we always ask it, but are we really interested in each other? And if we ask questions to the real person, if we're really interested in them, that will help us to make it safe for the people. That will help us to be more connection. That will help us to have more to working on a purpose. So asking questions is so very important, but not only questions about our results, about the organization, about the goals, but also what the individual has to do in that thing. And then the last, but not least, absolutely not least, is there reflection? Yeah. Is the team really reflected on what they are doing? On what they are doing in this session? The action learning script gives you the tools to do that, but also between the sessions, spontaneously when people see each other drinking a cup of coffee. Can we reflect on what we're doing? Can we reflect on all the elements before? How are we asking questions? How do we give feedback? What's the purpose? Etc., etc. And reflection is an upper stream. That's research. That's all the things you do, but it's also the undercurrent to talk with each other. And otherwise, you have stagnation. So the important thing for a team coach or an action learning coach, I think, is don't tell the team what their purpose is, what their connection is, what their safety is, but ask questions. Or maybe one step better, and I want to go to do in a workshop with you or in the action learning week, is what are the questions you ask people to ask each other? And one of example I use as an action learning coach in my groups, in my companies, is sometimes I ask to somebody, can you write down 6 questions about the purpose you want to ask to the group? Can you ask 6 questions about the connection you want asked to the group? And then it's important that it are not closed questions, but open-ended questions. So I say to the group, okay, if you have six questions, the first starts with why, the other with what, where, who, when, and how. The 5 wives, the 1 husband. So always you can remember that. And then when you have this, then you can work on a team. But this is a never-ending process. It's an infinite game. It goes on, it goes on. And sometimes you go 5 steps forwards, 4 steps back. And this is what I really love to work with. It's my process of 40 years working with teams that I think, okay, I think this will be very helpful. And then it's coming the big question. And the big question is, are we able to solve the problems that arise, and can we learn from them as a team? This is the question I always ask to teams where I work with. Are we able to solve the problems? And the problems that arise, we don't know before when they're coming. And can we learn from them? First is action, the second is learning. Now this is where I'm going to talk with you at the Action Learning Week in September in a workshop or something else. Thank you for your attention. And do you have any more questions? Below you see my email address, twan@realnl.nl. And for the people who are more close to the Netherlands, that's my telephone number. Thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you all in September in the last week. Bye-bye.